Derek Brunson versus Edmen Shahbazyan takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Shabazian, and I'm so glad that this fight got bumped up to the main event of the card. If you don't know, Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana was originally scheduled as the main event. In my opinion, even when Holm versus Aldana was on the card, people still looked at Brunson versus Shabazian as the real main event of that card anyway. So I'm so glad that it finally gets its credit as a main event fight. Edmen Shahbazyan is in a very big position and a very important moment in his career right now, because if he wins one against Brunson and does it impressively, who else has beaten Brunson impressively in that division? You join the likes of Jacare Souza, Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker. I mean, you put yourself with a real good group of people, because even though Derek Brunson is a gatekeeper, and believe me, Derek Brunson is a gatekeeper, we're going to talk about Brunson in this video as well. He's a very, very good gatekeeper. In fact, Derek Brunson might be the best gatekeeper of all gatekeepers in the UFC. He might be the greatest gatekeeper of all time. Honestly, Derek Brunson, you think of the guys he lets through. Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker recently. I mean, that's a real good list. It seems if you get past Derek Brunson in any way of a decent fashion, you're at least going to be top 5. And if you beat him in impressive fashion in the first round, unless you're Jacare, you seem to go on to become champion as well with Whittaker and Adesanya. So if Edmen Shahbazyan wins, I know this is an older Derek Brunson now, but still, that's a really good win, because Derek Brunson is coming off of wins against Ian Heinisch, Elias Theodorou, if you can call that one a win. I feel like everyone lost in that fight anyway. I don't really feel like a winner was really... If you remember the fight between Brunson and Theodorou, no one won on that night. Okay, and that just kind of needs to be said right now. But Derek Brunson, coming off technical wins against Elias Theodorou, a big win against Ian Heinisch as well, and Ian Heinisch just bounced back against Gerald Meerschaert, who's a dangerous middleweight. Ian Heinisch is a savage, knocked down Brunson in the first round with a head kick. Seems to be something that Brunson loves getting hit by. Jacare, Adesanya, Whittaker, I mean, the list can go on, but still. Brunson got dropped in the first round. This new patient approach of Brunson seems to be somewhat working out for him, but I feel like against a guy in Edmen Shahbazyan, the patient approach of Brunson is going to really backfire, because he's going to give Shabazian the space that he needs to use his feints, to close the distance, to really set things up and get calm and patient. I mean, Edmen Shahbazyan, although he finishes guys in the first round, before he goes for the finish, he's locked in position, he's ready to go, he's throwing feints, he's making reads, he's looking for his openings. I feel like the patience of Derek Brunson here, this new leaf that Brunson has turned over, is going to actually benefit Edmen Shahbazyan. I actually feel like as well, if the Derek Brunson of 2015 showed up against Shabazian this weekend, I think it would be a bit more of a tougher fight for Shabazian, because as a young guy, your first main event, and you've got Brunson of 2015-14... running towards you with his chin right out in the air, swinging punches non-stop. That's a dangerous fight, especially if you're Shabazian. As I said, young guy, going to be some jitters in there. So I feel like the patience of Derek Brunson is really going to benefit Edmen Shahbazyan here. I could also see Derek Brunson really going heavy on the takedowns. I feel as though Edmen Shahbazyan is a little bit too busy, too quick in the clinch and takedown positions. I know against Darren Stewart, he was going for takedowns and Stewart was getting back up, but takedown defense is a little bit different. Darren Stewart's a good fighter. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. Darren Stewart has lost some fights in the UFC, but he's a tough test, and I feel like it's safe to say that Shabazian has improved tenfold since then with his recent performances. I mean, look at the one against Brad Tavares. Again, Brad Tavares, gatekeeper number 2. He's the gatekeeper to the rankings. I feel like Derek Brunson's the gatekeeper to the top 5 in the belt. But Brad Tavares, again, I mean, Edmen Shahbazyan might be the gatekeeper killer. Honestly, we might have to make a name for himself. Edmen Shahbazyan first beats Brad Tavares. You look at the guys who've beaten Brad Tavares. You're looking at Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, the same guys. Really good performance from Edmen Shahbazyan. Brad Tavares is no joke. I feel like that tells me he's going to at least be able to beat Derek Brunson here. I think he gets it done in the first round by KO, because with Brunson's patience nowadays, if he does go for the takedown, Edmen Shahbazyan is so quick to work in those positions to try and do damage. I feel like that's going to be a real big benefit here. And also, Derek Brunson, something he's always been open for is uppercuts. So if he does want to go out there and clinch with Edmen Shahbazyan's got some real nice, close close combat uppercuts that he throws. He threw him against Charles Byrd. He beat his Contender Series opponent with those as well. He's got really good shots, even against Brad Tavares. Once he had him rocked, he went straight for those uppercuts. I feel like he's going to finish the fight with an uppercut here. I really do, because when Derek Brunson gets tagged big, he shells up, he hunches over, he tries to get his weight over himself so he doesn't get knocked down, because It's Derek Brunson. He's had a lot of TKO losses in his career now. When he gets tagged with a big shot, he shells up, he covers over, and he's open for uppercuts in that situation. And I think I could really see this happening. If I had to have a crystal ball on exactly how I see this fight going down, I think it's going to be a whole lot of nothing but feints. Shabazian's going to tag him with a straight right hand. Brunson's going to get rocked by it. Look to close the distance with a guard up, trying to get the clinch. And Shabazian just unloads a couple uppercuts and finishes the job. Shabazian gets it done. And if he wins this one, the middleweight division right now, for a while it was like, you know, we had the guys that we knew of. We had Yoel Romero, Jacare, Bisping. When Bisping was champ, listen, man, that was... As much as I love Bisping as a fighter, it was not the right time for the middleweight division. Like, with GSP coming in, we had no contenders fighting for the belt. It was just a bit of a mess. Everyone was on standstill. Bisping was defending against Dan Henderson, who wasn't even ranked at the time. Almost fucking lost that fight as well. Like, it was a bad time for the middleweight division at that time, I feel. But now, we've got all these young names coming up. Jack Hermansson, Darren Till is still in the mix, even though he lost to Robert Whittaker. I mean, one of the best losses I could really think of in terms of outcome-wise and how you're seen afterwards. I mean, that's kind of like the only acceptable way to lose, is to make it really close and have a good show for yourself. And, by the way, tear your ACL out in the second round. So, I feel like Till's stock is still up right now. Whittaker is back in the mix. You've got Jared Cannonier. I feel like they're going to do Whittaker versus Cannonier. Shabazian, if he wins this one, is in a great position to either take on the winner of Uriah Hall versus Yoel Romero or the Jack Hermansson, who just beat Kelvin Gastelum. Jack Hermansson is in that mix. But what I feel like actually will happen here is that Jack Hermansson will take on the winner of Romero versus Hall. That will be a fight that they make. And then Edmen Shahbazyan, I don't see them giving him Darren Till. I don't see him giving Cannonier. Don't see them giving him Robert Whittaker or Derek Brunson if he wins this one either. He could be in the mix as well. I mean, if Derek Brunson wins, he's on a 3-fight win streak. Got really good resume in the previous fights. Ian Heinich bounced back. He just beat Edmen Shahbazyan, so he'd be right there as well if Derek Brunson wins. But I'm going to kind of try and operate here on the assumption that hopefully Shahbazyan gets this one done, because that would be the best case scenario for the division. Let's not get it twisted. But Darren Till, I feel like is since the ACL tear news came out, maybe if he just lost and didn't really take much damage, I would maybe match him up with the winner of this bout. But I feel like the winner of this bout is not going to want to wait 6 months. Especially if it's Edmen Shahbazyan. If it's Derek Brunson, maybe he'll be willing to wait 6 months, because he's an older guy. He doesn't fight too often anyway. He fights every 6 months anyway. So maybe if Derek Brunson wins, they could do him versus Darren Till. But when you think about Edmen Shahbazyan, he's a young guy whose goal is to become the youngest UFC champion ever. And you're telling him if he wins this one in the first round KO fashion and doesn't take any damage whatsoever, he's going to wait 6 months for Darren Till. I just don't think that's going to be what happens. I feel like if Edmen Shahbazyan wins, he's going to want to get right back in there against potentially the winner of Omari Akhmedov versus Chris Weidman. And if it's Chris Weidman, Shahbazyan versus Weidman, main event of a fight night, I mean, Shahbazyan is in a real good position if he wins this one, regardless of what happens. I just feel like that's kind of the path that's going to happen next. And then whoever wins out of the Akhmedov-Weidman winner and Brunson-Shahbazyan winner, we can do against someone who's coming off a loss for the championship fights. Or, who knows, maybe Costa loses and Shahbazyan slides right in there and gets that fight instead. You never know. Anything could happen. Shahbazyan's in a great position. I feel like he's going to go out there and impress and make this look really good. He's going to go out there and impress. I forgot an "an" in that last sentence, but I think he just gets it done. Little bit too quick. Brunson's a bit jittery in that first round, and then you look at the age of them. I mean, in my opinion, when I'm looking at the pair of their ages, I see Brunson in this fight getting just a bit older, and I see age once you're past the age of, like, your prime as only a negative thing. But when you're as young as Edmen Shahbazyan and you're 22 years of age, I feel like age is a positive, because that's all learning time. With Derek Brunson, it's just time that you haven't been injured for, because you're getting a bit older, 36 years of age, against a 22-year-old. I mean, I know Brunson's got the reach advantage, but it's not that significant. 3 inches in the middleweight division isn't really going to do much. I mean, 3 inches doesn't do much in real life anyway. But Derek Brunson versus Edmen Shahbazyan is just... I feel like Brunson's going to get tagged straight on the chin. Straight on the chin. First round, get rocked, try and close the distance with his guard up, and then get slumped with uppercuts. Edmen Shahbazyan wins. The amount that he's learned, I imagine, over the past few years, or the past few months that he hasn't fought for. I mean, he fought all the way back in November. That's 9 months ago. That's a long time for a 22-year-old to develop. Considering, like, 18 is when you really become an adult anyway. That's, like, coming up to a quarter of his existence as an adult MMA fighter, really. You know, like, Edmen Shahbazyan is going to improve tenfold in this time off, whereas Derek Brunson, on the other hand, when was the last time he fought? Let me check that real quick. 2019, August. Even longer off. He's now 36. I mean, it's just bad for me. And he's signed to fight before. They've both had full camp, so there's nothing really to look into there. I just feel as though Edmen Shahbazyan gets this one done. If it comes out the first round, maybe we find out that Shabazian hasn't really got a great gas tank. That's a very potential result, especially if Shabazian goes for the finish in the first round. But he's not really the guy that goes for the finish. That's why I like him, and that's why I think he's going to be very good in this division. Because he doesn't go for the finish just happens. He waits for it. Like, he's not a guy that goes out there and just starts swinging straight away, looking for big shots and looking for openings. He'll go out there, patient, look at you, make some feints, make some reads. As soon as you show him the right look, boom, you're down, and then he capitalizes. He doesn't rush for it. He doesn't over-commit to a finish either. He's very good at that kind of thing. So I like it. I think Edmen Shahbazyan gets it done. Uppercuts in the first round. I hope that's the case anyway, because that would be the best case scenario for the division. Let's not get it twisted. Derek Brunson's good though, man. And if Derek Brunson wins, I think on the line here, if Derek Brunson does win, he genuinely is the greatest gatekeeper of all time. And he deserves that title. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I know that could be seen as maybe derogatory to some of these fighters to say that they're a gatekeeper. That's such a good thing to have. Because it shows that, hey, if they beat you, they're world championship level. That's a great compliment, rather than you just being a random guy who was in the rankings that then falls out of the rankings as his career goes on and being a nobody afterwards. You're the guy that lets these guys through. I mean, Derek Brunson may look back at his career if he doesn't get a belt and maybe think badly of it, but he will exist in the highlight reels of champions for years to come. And I think that's a really good legacy. Well, it might not be a good legacy, but still, it's better than fucking nothing. So be fucking thankful, Brunson. Edmen Shahbazyan gets it done, KOs Brunson, looks for the winner of Weidman versus Akhmedov, especially if it's Weidman. If it's Akhmedov, they'll probably do Akhmedov versus Vettori, honestly, the rematch. First fight was a draw. But Weidman, if he wins, Weidman versus Shahbazyan. Main event of a fight night, great co-main event as well, and you're done. That's all it takes to watch a fight night nowadays. All of them are good. All of the fight nights are good. And this one's really good as well, and I feel like it finishes with the icing on the cake in the main event. Shahbazyan by first round KO. Click that button there. Good. Bye. See you later.